Top 10 Best Action Movies. Do you feel like you don't have enough action in your life? Don't worry, because now you'll have more suspense, drama, explosions, and many fights with this top 10 of the best action movies. Number 10. I Saw the Devil 2010. This is a Korean film directed by Kim Ji-woon, starring Lee Byung-hun, Choi Min-sik, and Jeon-guk Kwan. This revenge movie begins when the girlfriend of the well-known detective Soo Hoo-yoon is kidnapped, raped, and subsequently brutally murdered by a crazy man who's obsessed with women, called Kyung-chul. When the detective finds out about this terrible event, he decides to take revenge by his own hand. After finding the killer and placing a GPS on him, he begins to stalk and frustrate each of his assassination attempts until he's cornered and proceeds to give him a slow death. A movie that makes you think about what you can get from revenge. This film won several awards, such as the Blue Dragon for Best Music and Cinematography/Lighting, the Grand Bell for Best Lighting, and the Baeksang Arts Award. This movie is adrenaline from start to finish and keeps such a good rhythm that you can't take your eyes off the screen. It's a movie that you can't miss. Number 9. Taken 2008. Directed by Pierre Morel and starring Liam Neeson. This film tells the story of Brian Mills, a former CIA agent who decides to live with his daughter and finally give her the time and attention he couldn't when he was working as an agent. Everything changes when his daughter Kim is invited to Paris by her best friend. Brian agrees with the only condition that she stays in constant touch with him. It is just when his daughter arrives in Paris and sets up in a hotel when he decides to call her and ask how she is doing. But the conversation doesn't last long because suddenly, a stranger enters the room and kidnaps his daughter. It is from that moment that he will dedicate himself to the relentless pursuit of his daughter before she gets lost in the hell of international sex trafficking. An interesting fact about this film is that the plot affected the actress Famke Janssen, who played the ex-wife of Brian Mills. Her shock was so big that she decided to get involved in the fight against sex trafficking and is a goodwill ambassador in the United Nations Office Against Drugs and Crimes. Number 8. Mad Max 2015. Directed by George Miller and starring Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, this film is a sequel to the famous trilogy played by Mel Gibson. The story revolves around Max, a lonely man who was kidnapped to work in the fearsome Immortan Joe's troops, a being that looks like a monster and whose face is covered by a mask with huge teeth. Joe rules the Citadel and seeks to make it the dominant civilization to keep all the raw materials left on the planet. This is because after a nuclear attack, society was divided into tribes competing for water and gasoline in cars designed for wars. In the Citadel, there is also a woman named Imperador Furiosa who seeks to escape from that society, where they use women as milk producers and soldiers. She does so accompanied by the 5 wives of the governor, who beg her to take them out of there. This is how a persecution begins on the part of the emperor to recover his wives, especially because one of them is pregnant. On the way, they meet Max and use him as a blood bag, but the more the plot progresses, they realize they need him for more than that. This film was awarded with the Oscar for Best Production Design, Best Costume Design, Best Editing, Best Sound Editing, Best Sound, Best Makeup, BAFTA for Best Makeup and Hairdressing, among others. Number 7. Kill Bill 2003. Directed by Quentin Tarantino and starring Uma Thurman. This story centers on a pregnant woman who had been the victim of a brutal attack alongside the groom and the wedding guests, being the only survivor. Years later, she wakes up from the coma she was in after the assassination attempt, but realizes that her baby was gone. She decides to start a restless search for each of the people who participated in the attack and to take revenge and make them suffer to death for the loss of her baby. For this purpose, she makes a list of each of the criminals, heading a name Bill. This film is divided into two parts because, in the first one, the main character only manages to eliminate some names from her list, Vernita Green and Oren Ishii. It is in the second part when she manages to eliminate 3 more names, including Bill and his brother. This part also reveals many secrets that no spectator could have imagined. Number 6. Snowpiercer 2013. Action on Wheels, this Korean film by Bong Joon-ho and starring Chris Evans, Tilda Swinton, and Song Kang-ho is a film that, besides having action scenes, makes you clearly appreciate how a group of individuals that live in a train function as a small society, dividing it only in upper and lower class. This film tells the story of a group of people who, that after what could have been cataloged as the end of the world, take refuge in a train that is divided between 2 classes. Class A located at the front of the train that enjoys the better amenities, and Class B located in the back, which gives a very poor situation and just gets a bar of protein to live every day. After many years of abuse, Group B, who is already tired of so many mistreatments, decides to organize a raid led by Curtis, who builds a plan helped by an unknown person of Class A that sends hidden notes in the protein bars to invade the front of the train, take control of it, and enjoy what they never had. Number 5. The Nice Guys 2016. A film full of humor, blood, and action, directed by Shane Black and starring Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. Set in Los Angeles during the 70s, where private detective Holland March and hitman Jackson Healy, who could be classified as water and oil, are suspects of the mysterious disappearance of Amelia, a young woman who worked in the porn industry that they were both following. It is here that they decide to collaborate solving the case, but they discover that it is all about a multi-million-dollar conspiracy and corruption that involves even the highest spheres of power. Their mission will be to bring the truth to light before they are caught by murderers who want to silence them. Number 4. Face Off 1997. Plastic surgeries and lots of action. This film, directed by John Woo and starring well-known actors John Travolta and Nicolas Cage, tells the story of policeman Sean Archer who, in the middle of a confrontation with the fearsome criminal Castor Troy, becomes the target of a bullet that unfortunately hits his little son instead, who ends up dying. This is why the policeman swearing revenge follows Castor to kill him no matter what. When he finally manages to find him, he discovers that Troy has set a bomb to eliminate half of the city, and the only location of this is known to his brother who is locked in jail. This is why it's decided that Sean should change faces with Troy to get information from the brother about the location of the bomb. The whole plan would have developed perfectly if it hadn't been because of Troy waking up early and forcing the doctors to put Sean's face on him to frustrate his plans and mess with his family. Will the police succeed in saving his family and the city in time? Number 3. Old Boy 2003. Dae-soo is a businessman and family man who, after a night of drinking, is kidnapped and locked up in a room by a stranger for no apparent reason. 15 years later, locked in a suitcase, he's taken to the roof of a building, where he is abandoned along with a large amount of money and a cell phone. Once he manages to leave the suitcase, he decides to seek revenge and discover the individual who was in charge of keeping him locked up for so long and separate him from his family. What he looks forward to is the reason why they did that to him. In this mission, he is joined by a little girl with whom they will gradually establish a love relationship. Dae-soo does all this without knowing that being free was only the beginning of a revenge against him for an error he made in his youth. Directed by Chan-wook Park and starring Chi Min-sik, Mi-do, and Lee Woo-jin. This film has been praised by the critics and also has one of the best sequence shots, the famous scene of the hall fight. It has won awards such as the Blue Dragon for Best Director, Actor, and Supporting Actress, the Grand Bell for Best Director, Actor, Lighting, Music, and Editing, the British Independent Film Award for the Best Foreign Independent Film, among others. Number 2. The Professional. Directed by Luc Besson and starring Jean Reno, Gary Oldman, and Natalie Portman. This film tells the story of Matilda, a young woman who was shopping at a supermarket at the same time her family was being murdered by Stan, a corrupt member who belonged to the government's anti-drug department that had shady deals with Matilda's father. When the 12-year-old girl is orphaned, she takes refuge in the house of her neighbor Leon, who turns out to be a hitman and promises to teach her everything he knows so she can take revenge for the death of her younger brother in exchange for keeping the house clean and teaching him to read. It was awarded the Czech Lion Prize for the Best Foreign Film and the Golden Reel Award for Best Sound Editing. Now, we give you some action movies that did not make the cut, but they are classics of this genre that you can't miss. Predator, 1987. The Terminator, 1984. Bourne Identity, 2002. Do it! Mission Impossible, 1996. The Matrix, 1999. And last but not least, in the number 1 position we have the movie Die Hard, 1998. This film focuses on John McClane, a policeman who lives in New York and decides to travel to Los Angeles to reconcile with his ex-wife Holly Gennaro, who is an executive who works for the Nakatomi Corporation, a Japanese multinational. On Christmas Eve, the owner of the company decides to throw a party for his employees in a skyscraper, which our main characters decide to attend. Unfortunately, the place is seized by 12 terrorists whose goal it is to steal $600 million. During this attack, John was in another room, so he is not held hostage, but when he finds out what is happening, he confronts the group of criminals to save his ex-wife and the rest of the hostages. Directed by John McTiernan and starring the always invincible Bruce Willis, this film won the Japanese Academy Award for Best Film. What did you think of this top? Don't forget to comment which of these movies is your favorite or which one you will definitely watch next. Like the video, subscribe, and share it. Until next time.